Perfect. Welcome back. Perfect. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you guys had some great sessions with your networking partners. And it's the time of the night we're going to jump into our program for this evening. So I'm going to be handing it off to Monique Wilson, who will be tonight's moderator. So take it away, Monique.
Hi, everyone. My name is Monique Wilson, as she mentioned, and I am a program director at Charles Schwab. I've been a program director there since 2010. My job primarily entails managing complex enterprise level programs and initiatives through the development lifecycle. In addition to program management, I'm passionate about organizational development, agile processes, and business process reengineering, in addition to change management. I got my MBA from Johns Hopkins University, and I guess from a hobby perspective, I like saltwater, reef keeping, gardening, and spending time with my 2 kids and my husband. So that's my intro. I wanted to kick it off to our panelists so they can start to introduce themselves. Sergio, do you want to start? You there, Sergio? Are you on mute?
I think I was on mute. Awesome. Are you there?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. And I was looking at that picture, and I guess that was way before beard. I think I need an updated one. Hi, everyone. My name is Sergio Cavazos. I'm a managing director at Charles Schwab. I've worked at Schwab for 22 years, the majority of which I've spent in various leadership positions, always within our retail contact centers. I am also based out of Austin, where I serve as site leader for our service retail teams. And I have the opportunity to lead various other business units throughout the country, including chat and email and teams that specialize in supporting active traders. Finally, I serve as our Austin chapter executive coach of SOUL, which stands for Schwab Organization of Latinxes. And just wanted to say thank you all for inviting me to the panel.
Fantastic. And Payton?
Hi, my name is Payton Pangburn, and I work for Visa. Currently, I'm working in the CIT IMO office with mergers and acquisitions. I also serve at Austin Women in Technology as a chairman for our networking and mentoring program pillar. It has been for the last 4 years that I have been at Visa, in the last 3 years, but my history with this goes much further back. So you'll see that my passion is trying to layer the ways that I can mentor in with my roles in my organization. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Payton. And then last but not least, Juliana.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Juliana Richard. I'm the product director of mobile at Procre Technologies, which is a construction management platform. It's actually a aggressively growing company. It just went public. And previously, I actually spent over a decade in the healthcare industry in technology and also in consulting and policy. So, definitely very passionate in how, within technology and product, which is traditionally a division and discipline that tends to skew male, opening the door to women into product, and have benefited from mentorship as I made a career change out of policy and consulting into product, and love to give back and help other women and other folks who are looking in at a career at product to take that jump. So great to be here and looking forward to learning from everyone here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So guys, it is my absolute pleasure to be here to moderate this esteemed panel that you've just met on the very engaging topic of how allyship can help your career. But before we get started, let's take a moment to define the terms of mentor, sponsor, and ally, since we'll be talking about each of these in our conversation today. A mentor is an experienced or trusted advisor. It can be anyone in a position with experience, desire by a mentee who can offer advice and support. Mentor supports mentees through formal or informal discussions about how to build skills, qualities, and confidence for career advancement. But a sponsor, on the other hand, is a senior level individual that's invested in a protege's career success. So the Harvard Business Review explains that while a mentor is someone who has knowledge and will share it with you, a sponsor is a person who has the power to actually use it for you. So sponsors promote proteges directly, using their influence and networks to connect them to high-profile assignments, people, pay increases, and promotions. Sponsors champion the protege's visibility, often using their own platforms and reputation as a medium for exposure. Allyship, on the other hand, is the support or association with another group or person. The term often refers to support and advocacy for colleagues from underrepresented groups, including LGBTQ, women, the differently abled, and people of color. Mentorship often focuses on strengthening workplace relationships centered on career progression, and allyship can function similarly. So these terms, while they're often used interchangeably, are very distinct in their meaning. We will be speaking to each of these in our conversation today, as each of these relationship types are necessary and can be instrumental in your own career growth. So with these key distinctions made, let's dive into our panel discussion. And I will start with the conversation with a personal story. And Juliana, if I could start with you, what has mentorship personally meant to you, and how has it helped you in your career?
Sure. So actually today is a great example of mentorship in action. So Shelley Dougal, who's here today and a member of AWT, actually was the person who invited me to speak on this panel and introduced me. And so it's a great example of how being a mentor or being a mentee is really a bi-directional street. And I feel lucky to have had the chance to work with someone like Shelley and to open doors for her. And she's paid that forward. Looking back at my own career, given I made a pivot from consulting and policy into product, I really credit mentorship as the primary reason I actually was able to jump into technology. And so I was very lucky to find other product folks and engineering folks who were open to, training and teaching, given, everyone needs that first step into technology. And by finding people who are willing to, spend time, I was able to, find those doors and get my first job in product. So really credit my journey to mentorship. And, along that journey, there's also some rejection. You have to keep knocking on doors to find people who have the time and experience to really be able to help. And also,
Nico and Emily, I'm gonna need y'all's help. Nico, do not tilt your chair back like that again.
Hey guys, if we could, everybody can go on mute.
Just y'all's help.
We need everyone on mute so that we can.
I'm gonna need 15 solid minutes of help.
Mute.
no worries. We all have those moments. I feel
Yes,
that
we
too.
do.
Anyways, but yeah, thank you, Monique, for the question. Would love to hear from maybe Sergio.
Sergio, yes, please.
Yeah, thank you. And you know what? This is reality, right? This is our new, this happens on a lot of calls, but mentorship, for me, a lot of my ex-bosses have remained mentors for me in one way or another. And the biggest impact when I think about this question was I had a couple of them that specifically at a time in my career, it was early on, and they helped to identify leadership potential in me and guide me in that direction. And it was before I had even identified it for myself as something that I wanted to pursue, right? Early in my career, I did not want to be a people manager. I always have been very self-driven, comfortable with executing on my deliverables, but I really didn't want to be held accountable for the deliverables of others, right? Which is kind of a weird way to think about the role of a leader, but that was just my tunnel vision at the time, right? And two mentors specifically through several years really guided me to reevaluate my thinking. And so I find myself at a fork on the road. On the one hand, I could stay as an individual contributor or pursue an individual contributor path, maybe think about project management. I've always really loved tech and finance, that's my background. So perhaps going down the path of being a product owner in our digital services areas, that would have been something to pursue. And I was thinking about that, but through their guidance, they really helped me to double down on people leadership because it was about reframing the way that I viewed the role. It took me some time, right? But they really helped me to appreciate the responsibility of leadership and the potential impact that a leader has on people's lives. Not only do you help the individuals on your team to develop as professionals, grow their careers, but for me, it really went beyond that. And to think about those individuals have family and friends, right? Circles around them outside of our four walls. And the positive impact that you make on people, it's not only them, but those that they go home to. And so the impact was tremendous. And when I started thinking about it that way, it was just so powerful and really reshaped the way that I've approached leadership for the rest of my career. And I'm really thankful that mentors helped to guide me in that direction and see something in me that I had not seen in it myself.
Fantastic. And Payton?
I've had the luck of a father who told me early on I didn't necessarily need to have an advanced degree. I just needed to know who to call. And I took that advice pretty strongly, and it meant to build a network of experts because you can't be all knowing. You won't know everything. I struggled just like Sergio did with being a subject matter expert, being a former accountant. People in technology were asking me to interview and I didn't understand, but they found the same characteristics in our personalities, and reconciling money and systems wasn't really that different. So when people come to you and say, what about this? And you go and shut them down pretty quickly, I would say the mentors in my life have allowed me to open up my eyes in ways that I'd never dreamed possible. But it's a big leap of faith to some degree. And what we're talking about here is building relationships on a really different trust level than you're used to having with almost anyone else in your life. And some of those relationships are very short-lived, and some of them will go on forever. But I just always go back to what my dad said about, you don't have to be the expert, just figure out who to call. And that's really what mentors have done for me, is if they didn't know, then they would find someone for me to call. So that's my overall story. Thanks.
It's an awesome story. Thank you so much, Payton, for that. So media mogul Oprah Winfrey was quoted once as saying, mentors are important. Nobody makes it in the world without some form of mentorship. Nobody makes it alone. So Payton, my question to you is, how have you seen mentorship actually help others? We heard how it helped you. Why do you feel it is important, and what are the benefits?
So I've seen mentorship change lives. I've watched that through my children. People warn you when you become a parent that you're the worst teacher in their lives. I totally agree. I think surrounding them with other people to help guide them in their interest as they explore the world is really great. And so watching mentors for my children has really helped me see how it's taken that back home, like Sergio said, and really brought to life those possibilities for them. My son is turning 25 this week, and he came back and said, I was able to teach the student nurse today, and it was the greatest day of my life. And he was the charge nurse too for the first time on the floor in his hospital. So he was extremely ecstatic, but to hear him talk about training another person just lit up my heart in a way that I felt like all of the volunteer programs that I took him to, all of the networking events that I went to and left them or either brought them along, that really doubled back to them serving other people. So I feel it's really important because it builds a spirit in which this world was supposed to be founded on, which is a shared unity and caring for one another. It allows us to really help each individual grow to their potential, even if they can't see it for themselves. So from the benefits, predominantly, it's how to learn something very quickly. So we go to a mentor because we think they're the expert. We think they're going to be the one who's going to help show us the way. And that's why you need different mentors for different things. So learning things quickly is for me the biggest benefit. The most important thing is really about how it helps our heart and grows our soul. Thank you.
That's awesome. So while I think that we can all agree that having a mentor can have significant benefits, in practice, actually asking someone to be your mentor can be difficult and awkward. So Sergio, are there etiquette rules that apply? And how do you go about asking someone to be your mentor or ally?
I guess I'm the awkward person or the expert, but I think that this is an interesting question. I've been asked this before, right? Like, what's the etiquette? How do you ask? And I think there's many different ways, right? There's definitely formal programs that I think a lot of companies have. Several departments may have some specific ones to your area or something that's unique to you that you might want to look at. But I also want to go back to, I think Payton made a really great point about mentorship and different types of mentors, right? I think when most people think of a mentor, we think of this long drawn out relationship, right? That can span years of guidance. And I think that can happen, right? And that does happen and it can develop over time, but I don't think most of these relationships necessarily begin that way, right? And I think that that's at least been my experience. And so my best advice when you think about how do you go about asking a mentor is first be thinking about mentorship with a purpose, all right? And so what do I mean by that? Be really specific, really think about what it is that you need guidance on. What do you need mentorship on, right? Make sure you can clearly articulate that type of guidance that you need. And then I think by doing so, that helps you to identify somebody that can be a good match for that help. And if it's not somebody in your network, then go to your leader or go to your allies, right? Go to others in your network to expand that possibility and explain what you're looking for. And there will usually be somebody that they can find a right match, right? My other thing or my other advice would be ask them to make an introduction, right? I've found that that's usually the best way to get people together in that kind of more formal relationship. And then finally, what you can go about doing is schedule that initial interview, right? No strings attached. Just look for that specific guidance that you're looking for, that help, right? Be very articulate again. And then once that relationship forms, I think it can be a little bit more natural to ask, a little bit less awkward. If maybe, can we set up an ongoing series, maybe touch base quarterly? Would love to come back to you and ask for guidance on either this specific, or I might have a couple of other topics that I'm thinking about. And I think through that, it's a little bit more of a natural way to build on that relationship. A couple other things maybe also to consider. Respect that some mentors may have a process, right? And so you might want to be willing to adapt or decide maybe that match is not right for you, right? So a lot of times it is a swing and a miss, and it's just not going to be a connection. I have a process. I've had formal mentees in many, and so I actually have a mentor contract that we go through, and that might not be for everybody, right? But it works for me. And so if the long-term relationship then happens, then that's a great thing. But again, I don't know that having one mentor is necessarily the most productive for everybody.
Makes sense. Along those lines, in the book Lean In, the author Sheryl Sandberg talks about mentorships, and she likens asking strangers to be mentors to the behavior of the main character in the favorite children's book, Are You My Mother? The book is about a baby bird that emerges from its shell in an empty nest and goes in search of its mother. And the little bird asks everything that it sees, from a kitten, a dog, a cow, a steam shovel. Are you my mother? And the answer is always the same. No, no, I'm not your mother. So according to Sandberg, this is just like the professional asking a stranger, will you be my mentor? So Sergio, related to your earlier question, is it ever the right thing to do to ask a stranger to be your mentor?
I guess if you're looking for the answer to be no, yeah, sure, do it. Right, do it again and again.
Maybe not. What's your opinion?
I don't think asking a stranger to be a mentor is generally a good idea, unless you're in it for an awkward conversation. Again, back to that theme, right? If you have someone in mind, and I think maybe this kind of comes to that because you admire somebody or a trait or a skill, right? And that's why you're looking to ask them. I'll go back to, I think the best bet is to have somebody make an introduction, right? If you have somebody in your network that can be that connector, then leverage that. If there isn't a connector and you're still insisting on a stranger, then maybe ask, if it's okay to set up a one-on-one, right? But still be purposeful. Have a reason to go into that meeting and something that's genuine, right? Don't make up something that's genuine where there will be value. So I've seen things like if you're working on a project that maybe intersects with that department, right? Their department, then there's your introduction, right? Ask for, how do I learn? I'd love to bend your ear and learn more about your goals and objectives for your department. One other thing that happens a lot in our area is a lot of people are usually looking for the next level role, right? And they're just looking for guidance on how did you go about it? Or what are your thoughts on what makes a successful leader in that next level? And I'll tell you what, I always find myself saying, yes, sure, right, let's set up a 30-minute and I'll gladly offer some guidance. But again, if it's a total stranger, I think you need to be a little bit more purposeful. I would prefer that you find a connector, but if you don't have a connector, go in it with not the full years-long relationship in mind, but maybe something very specific.
Makes sense. Any of my other panelists, Payton, anything to add?
For me, it's just ask for advice. I think Sergio gave some great examples. If it is going to be a real cold call, so to speak, then in saying, I'd love to have your advice on X, Y, Z, and then feel it out from there. Otherwise, I use LinkedIn a lot to make introductions between two people. And I think it's a great way to kind of informally make that, but be smart about it and be safe. And I'm speaking to everyone on the planet. If we're going to meet with strangers, because I actually have a networking environment in which I do meet with people I don't know, but I'm very consistent about my location and my time and my dates. And my husband's very aware of that as well. So we just want to be super cautious when you're meeting people that you don't know, even with an introduction. So that's my advice.
Makes sense.
I would add, I think those are all really great points. I would also just add one note. Make sure you do your research, especially when you're asking someone who doesn't maybe have that network connection and reason to kind of connect with you, because I think it really carries a lot of weight when you can tell someone really did their homework on whether it be your career or your industry or your chosen path. So that really goes a long distance of people, first of all, choosing to pay it forward because you're not, expending energy in a way that, it benefits you, it benefits them. But yeah, just be mindful that someone's taking time out of their day and do the work to make it worth your time and their time too.
That's right. That makes perfect sense. And so there might be some extra work to do if it's the person's someone you don't know, or you might want to look around those that you already have a connection with and find new mentor opportunities that exist with people that you already know and have a relationship with. Yeah. So while we're talking about the practical side of forming these relationships, Payton, what are some things that people can do to establish and build their network of mentors and allies?
And for us with Women in Technology, I went to the Texas Women's Conference 4 years ago, and I sat in a meeting organized by a gentleman regarding having men as allies. And it really took me aback because I'm like, I'm here at a women's conference and you're telling me to go to get a man to be my ally. And to your former definitions, Monique, it was more like a sponsorship in a way, but also an allyship. And it got me really thinking about Austin Women in Technology at VISA. And I noticed that our leadership, the men that I really admired, were actually participating with Women in Technology. There wasn't very many, but I then encouraged many other men to start coming to the Texas Women's Conference, as well as to participate and learn more about the women's needs in the organization, because growing that particular area was important to the company. For me personally, I also was asked to be a part of Pride Pals. It's a new program that we're developing with our Visa Pride ERG. And while I hadn't really thought about it from building my own network, the allyship that I have since then created within that organization helped me really see all the gaps that I have. I like to say that I'm the white woman there asking for a Black friend. So yes, everybody laughed at me, hands up. But it's
I'll be
true.
your
And
friend, Payton.
it's true. I even saw a book where that was like a title. But I do think the only way we're going to get better in this world is to actually be a part of other organizations that don't look like us. And so I need to find my place where I don't look like me too. I grew up in San Antonio, so Texas, and predominantly not white environment. So I felt like I was always a minority. It didn't make sense to me, some of the conversation that was going on, because it wasn't how I was raised. But I needed to change my attitude and my experience and to really immerse myself into some other very uncomfortable and difficult conversations to make things better. So that's my advice.
Wonderful. All right. So a big part of building relationships in the past has been facilitated by the benefit of making in-person contacts at work. So obviously COVID and remote working has changed the dynamics of networking a bit. Sergio, how has working remotely affected your ability to expand your mentorship and allyship network?
So it's interesting because even though I've had remote reporting relationships for years, my boss, my directs, I have a couple of directs here in my location, but I have them throughout the country. I didn't realize how much I leaned on my local network when we all went to work from home. I'll be honest, the shift was really difficult for me. And it was probably very difficult for a lot of people. And by the way, we're just now starting to take volunteers back to office, right? So we're starting a volunteer return to office at Schwab, and I'm here, right? 3 out of 5 days. And to me, it's great. I'm excited, but it's empty. There's not a lot of people. But here's what I did find that was fruitful in a work from home type of environment or remote. I think because everybody was forced to work from home, everybody started to get used to these like Zoom networking events, right? The random Zoom happy hours. I didn't even know what that was, right, before COVID. And my sister threw a happy hour, right? And I was, kind of chuckling, but I joined it, and it was great, right? Like it was a way to connect. It was all that we had, right? So we forced ourselves. But I think because everybody was forced into it, kind of at the deep end, then it became okay, right? And I found myself connecting a lot more with people that I know I would usually not have kept in touch with, because I am more of this relator, lean on my local network. I've had more Zoom happy hours with colleagues now that I wouldn't have kept in touch, right? And it's because they're okay with it. They're all used to these events. It's no longer really awkward, right? So we'll schedule a 1 or 2 hour get together, whether it's late on an evening or a Saturday during the day that people can usually make it around their families, and a few of us just catch up. And I think it's made it more normal, right? So I do miss connecting in person. I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm hopeful personally that a return to office will be successful when it's safe, right, and when people feel good about it. But I do think events like this are going to outlive the pandemic, right? So I think there's a lot of value, and I've even found value in them, even though, like I said, I'm more of a people person.
Absolutely. And I think going back to Payton's response and tying it into yours, so much of this is getting out of your comfort zone and reaching out and making connections you may not otherwise make, via any means that you have available to you. So not everyone that is talented and experienced or has an impressive CV makes a good mentor. So back to you, Sergio. Let's talk for a second about what attributes a person should look for in a mentor. And then conversely, flipping it on the other side, what are the attributes of being a good mentee?
Sure, I'll start with that. So I think it's someone that's willing to invest in the process personally, someone that's willing to set aside the time necessary, share information, offer candid feedback. Ideally, they're not in your reporting line, right? So that the feedback can feel a little bit more objective. But I do feel that the feedback has to be genuine, right? Good mentors know how to give constructive feedback, but also then balance it with encouragement. I think that's critical, right? A mentor is going to give you critical feedback, but if that's all they're giving you, that's going to be wearing on a mentee, right? So you want somebody that knows how to do both and can be uplifting when you need it. A good mentee, to the other side of that, should be clear what they're asking, as I mentioned earlier, right? What they're seeking in that relationship. Personally, I like the mentee to drive the agenda, come prepared to meetings, execute on follow-ups, and then finally just see feedback as a gift. I attended a conference a few years ago where there was a presenter. She had written a book about feedback being a gift, right? And she talked about how everyone generally wants feedback, right? So that they can learn and get better, right? People say they want feedback, but do they really, right? And so why does it feel then that feedback really isn't a gift for most of us, right? And I think it's because nobody likes to be critiqued. Nobody likes to say, I'm not perfect. Nobody likes to say, I need to change. And so if you're really looking for that type of relationship, just be ready, right? And be ready to take feedback as a gift and adapt what you feel is appropriate.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I also think mentorship is kind of like a mutuality that requires more than meeting the right teacher. You know, the teacher also has to meet the right students. So much of it is chemistry as well, I think. So we've been talking a lot about the importance of seeking mentorship, sponsorships, and allies, but there are really true benefits to being a mentor as well, or an ally to others. So Payton, what do you see as the benefits of being a mentor or an ally?
For me, one of the major benefits is just learning and having kind of an open door to what other people are thinking about or considering that you would not have thought of if someone hadn't brought you the question. By nature, you're also expanding your network, which is always a wonderful thing because you never know when you're going to need it. You don't know who's going to have that possible answer to the next question that's coming around the corner. And really, those are probably my two main ones. But there's a lot that goes on in our day-to-day work life that is long-term. And let's face it, having a conversation that someone that's interested in you, interested in where you've been, what you've done, how you might be able to help them, that is an ego boost, pure and simple. But it's also a short-term gratification. And I worked with projects that were 6 years long. So being able to cycle through and work with Boy Scouts or work, with a PTO or work with other people in their career paths was much shorter in length. And I needed that personally, but I knew I couldn't get it from my professional job. So getting it from my volunteer job, and AKA my favorite volunteer job now is mentoring and change leadership. So that's what I'm focusing on, but that's why. So I'd love to hear what Juliana has to say too about like the attributes of a good mentor, because I'm sure she's got some too.
Yeah, thanks so much, Payton, for the call out. So I think in terms of good attributes for being a mentor, definitely it's interesting. I think to be a good mentor, you have to be a good mentee, right? And so one of the challenges I see a lot with folks who are starting their journey on finding a mentor is a lot of times folks will look at, how do I find someone who's just like me? And sometimes that is brought out because people are looking at, how do I maybe get that next promotion? How do I build my network in this, industry, et cetera? And while those are all really valid reasons to kind of grow your network, the best growth is growth that comes from diversity and hearing things that are new and different and challenging yourself. And so I really recommend, folks looking for a mentor to find mentors that are actually unlike themselves and are going to bring a new perspective to their growth. I also think candor is really critical. So looking for someone who is going to tell you some of the things you may not want to hear, or maybe you need to hear at the right time. So definitely being able to run to feedback, being able to run to different opinions, those are just going to build your skill set and build your ability to navigate new horizons. So I really encourage that when you're looking for a mentor to kind of keep an open mind. And last but not least, time. I think all of us only have so much time to commit to personal development and growth. So don't, you know, I've definitely had folks who I wanted to be mentored by, and I've had them say, you know, hey, I don't really have enough time right now. And I think it's really important to be thoughtful about who you ask. And even if it's a no now, that's not a no forever. So, you know, be okay with people saying, you know, I'm not able to do that, and feel comfortable to say that to other people. You know, there's nothing worse than having someone agree to mentor you, but not really be able to commit the time to it. So, yeah, those are just a couple of thoughts from my experiences. And yeah, definitely, you know, don't be fearful of opening new doors, because it definitely leads to the most interesting opportunities in your career for sure.
Fantastic advice. All right. So thank you all for a very engaging conversation. I will close simply by stating that regardless of our titles or years of experience, we can learn from each other. And it is through mentoring, being open to learn, and cultivating human relationships that we can reach our ultimate potential. So thank you for the engaging discussions. I hope we all go out and find meaningful relationships. And I think it's about time to open the floor to questions and answers.
At this point, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions you have to the panel in general or to any specific panelist or me. Or feel free to send any questions to the chat as well.
We've had some great discussions. No questions? That's unlike this group.
So this is Sharon. I have a question for Payton.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
And first of all, I'm going to thank you for helping AWT grow something in our organization that our members have been asking for. Oh, I just realized I didn't turn on my video. Okay, sorry about that. And that is the mentorship program. You know, it's just something that we feel like has been kind of this big behemoth that we really haven't been able to tackle. So I just really do appreciate your input and your guidance on helping us develop that more. So how, I am a newly minted supervisor, or I should say technically manager. I've always been a lead. I've always been kind of that person, that go-to person. I've always been, you know, people's champion, but now I'm ultimately responsible for managing a team. What are your thoughts and maybe some hints or advice to someone who has been a lead for most of their career, but now formally a manager and can be that formal mentor to their employees?
Well, it goes back to the same advice I give people about their children. You may not want to be everything to them. So as now you've kind of taken on this formal relationship, whereas a leader, you feel a little bit easier about giving advice. You feel a little bit lighter about your attitude about things. Now you've got HR policies to follow. You've got other responsibilities to the organization to do things a certain way. So I would say that I remember going through that process myself after about 10 years as a lead. I did my MBA. I went through a high potential training. There was a job there sitting there actually with my name on it. And for 3 months, I walked around it. And when I did finally pull the trigger, it was hard to make that transition to now managing people. But I found myself having to force myself to shut up. That was not easy for me. I'm a pretty big talker, but I had to shut up and listen a whole lot more than I had in the past as a leader. As a leader, you're kind of leading the room, right? I mean, you're kind of showing them the way around the room. As a manager, your job is to help build leaders. And to do that, you have to help them understand how to become a leader. So you need to hear their voice. You need to help educate and guide them. And where they do have professional divots or maybe some professional work to do, maybe bring in some other mentors to talk to them that you like, or have a professional development conversation, or this class was really good for me. I really liked, what it covered. Maybe we could put that on your professional agenda for this year. We talk about goals, and typically they are professional and personal development goals. So I try to roll in and look at what is a person wanting to do professionally and personally in that area, and what can we roll into their work, and kind of build in how to build up that next leader, because you need to be replacing yourself all the time. So that's my biggest advice is it's a different job and you have to treat it differently. It's not an easy transition, but listen more and talk less.
That is very good advice.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you for that.
We have a question that came in through the chat. It is, what do you look for in a mentor when you feel stuck or burnt out? How has a mentor helped you through difficult times in your career or experience? And I'll let any of the panelists take it that want to take that one.
Juliana, you want to take that one?
Sure. I mean, I definitely have had a couple experiences where a mentor has kind of urged me into a direction I didn't consider, which I think, that can feel like a difficult time where maybe you feel a little stuck or trapped. And so, one of those experiences where I was at a company which really was never going to enable me to be a manager. And I really wanted to be a manager. And so he gave me kind of suggestions on how I could go about learning management within the parameters of the company. And then ultimately he actually urged me to leave to find my dream job. So that's actually a pretty classic example in mentorship, where helping people to grow where they are, but also knowing when to kind of give them a push to really take on a role that will fit their true goals. And I think, I definitely, I recognize myself, Payton, in your story of, walking around kind of the opportunities in management, feeling like, am I ready for this? Do I want to take this on? And ultimately, sometimes you need that push. And so finding a mentor who, again, will, be ready to kind of give you that advice in the right way is really more of an art than a science. So I would say finding ways to ask really good questions of a mentor so you can see if they will be ready to kind of push you in the right direction or push you to try something new.
Absolutely. That was a really good response. We have another question, and that is, how do you know when you're ready to be a mentor?
That's a great question. I think it's like, maybe when you're ready to be a parent, I'm not a parent, by the way, but I can imagine. I think it's when you feel like you're ready to give back in a way, right? When you feel that urge to really help the next generation. I know, I'm sure all of us, I mean, I know I've had a lot of people that have opened doors, have guided me, pushed me along the way. And then it was at some point, you start feeling that responsibility, like, isn't it my turn to start doing that for others, right? And so, I don't go seeking out mentees, but I think you get to your point in your career that at some point they come knocking to you, right? And if you have value to give back, right, you should. But you also have to be committed to it, and you have to be willing to invest. So if you're not there yet, then probably not, right? Don't do it. But yeah, that's a good question.
And I think that being a mentor, I don't know if there's a place that you've arrived, that you have to check off a list on a box to say that I am all these things, therefore I'm mentee, I'm worthy of being a mentor. I think that if you find opportunities to give back to people in your day-to-day work and people that work with you, at some point it'll be pretty obvious, that you have something to give and that you can help lift somebody up in certain ways, it seems to me. Do any of our other panelists have anything else to add?
Well, I'm a strong believer that if you're ready to be a mentee, you're also probably ready to be a mentor, because you are striving to learn, and that's really what the relationship is about. And I think it's an unfortunate belief that you have to be in a senior position to be a mentor, because really we have so much we can learn from different roles in different industries. I personally have actually found a lot of mentorship from, I'm in product mode, from folks in engineering. As a product manager, I learn every day from people in different roles. And so don't count yourself out as having something to offer others, because there's always folks that are looking to learn and grow.
And there's also peer mentorship, where you just meet with, we have an organization like that for certain roles at my company, where we just get together in the same role and we just help each other out with different struggles. So sometimes somebody in your same seat can help you more than somebody at a different level, right? Because they're going through the same things that you are. And so that's always an option.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's totally true. I think it's between the formal and the informal. There's a lot of conversation about that. Are you going on a date? Or are you getting married? And the going on a date, you could do that regularly at any age. Are you getting married? Maybe you want to talk about, the age differential or something. In my family, it's 5 years older or younger. That's kind of what I've told my kids. But that's really so you have more in common. But I love that idea of doing alliances with people in the same role, the same structure. People, they call it the skip level conversation, right, with your boss's boss. But I think you should go the other direction as well and ask for advice from younger people and see what they have to say. I think you'd be shocked at how well they think about things today. I think the new internships that we have right now, they're very impressive to me. So I'm learning a lot from how the interns think, and that's quite a bit my junior now. But I don't think that age should be a factor. I think that almost in a way that's another diversity card that we call out quite a bit, is age. And we like to have people from various ages in our organization to draw from. And I think we should treat our mentors just the same way. They shouldn't all have to be senior.
Wonderful. Do we have other questions?
I have a question. Hi, I'm Courtney Rowe. Can y'all hear me?
Can't hear you. Go ahead, Courtney.
Great. So I'm on the board of supporting women in geography and GIS. And we had a great, event called Career Cupid, where we did speed mentoring. And it was so much fun, and we made great connections, and I actually joined as a mentee, and it was fantastic. I gained a great mentor, and I've been sharing my career with him as I've been growing. Now, here's my question. Just this last year, I've actually grown a lot in my career, and I'm trying to share my achievements with my bosses and my mentors and my sponsors. But how do you go from when you're not only a working professional, but now you're a recognized professional? How do you really share that self-advocation with your sponsors and mentors so that they become more of a sponsor in your career?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Which one of my esteemed panelists want to take that one?
Maybe I could start. I think, Courtney, thank you for the question. One thing that I've found works really well, and again, this is just me and my style, but a friend of mine, a colleague and a friend, once I was sharing that we had the same boss, and I was having a hard time trying to connect with my boss and get the stuff that I wanted to talk about in, right? And so she advised, send them an agenda, right? Send the agenda and say, here are the things that I want to talk about and be really clear, and say, need to review information only, right? And as I thought about, that process, I've carried it on now for years, right? And so with different bosses, and it works terrific. Like now, every single boss has been like, okay, you gave me an agenda, we're talking about your topics. They might have one or two that they want to add, but then I'm really, really deliberate. And then you have an opportunity at that point to say, I want to talk about my accomplishments, or I want to share a couple of the things that I've been doing informational. And so, or I need to review because it's important to me that or I gave some feedback along the way on this initiative. So I think you guiding your one-on-ones gives you the power, and then you're behind the steering wheel, kind of like you are now.
It's interesting. At a women's conference we had in San Francisco Bay Area, they talked a lot about there's a tendency for women employees, and I wouldn't just say it's women employees, to not necessarily see their own value, or to not necessarily, or to even diminish it a bit, when you're talking to folks that you want to have recognize you. And one thing I would suggest is make sure that you keep a journal of your accomplishments. Talk about some of the things that you have done and some of the challenges that you faced and the strategies that you used to get around it. And what was the results? Don't just, when you talk, leaders hear you more if you talk about what your impact was to the organization. Not, I'm so great, I'm this, I'm that, but I did this and the result was that. And if you keep a record of that and you go to your mentors purposefully, don't look for someone to tell you what your value is. You're going to have to figure out what your own value is and share that with others. But I would definitely keep a notebook, a log, of accomplishments so that you can remind yourself. And the way you show up at a meeting will be different. Just when you think about yourself more as, hey, I accomplished things. And your whole persona will be different when you're speaking to someone that you want to recognize you.
I love that advice. I wanted to tag in on that specifically and say that I recently heard that you should do about 2 or 3 things every year that you would want to highlight on your resume. And when you're thinking about, going from a mentor to a sponsor, you can say, I worked on this really hard, the results oriented attitude that Monique is discussing. And here is the bullet that I was considering adding to my resume for this work. Would you help me critique it or review it? And that is a pretty selfless way to ask for help as well as getting it reviewed. When I have my one-on-one with my boss next month, I will turn around, because we just had ours yesterday, and I will mention that I was participating on this panel. I'll also put the panel participations that I've done this year on my performance review. So nobody asked me to do it. It's not a part of my job, but I'm going to make sure that it is documented and keeping that track. But I love that advice about 3 things that you did this year that you would want permanently on your resume with the impact statement. So it's a great way to kind of roll it all in together and add it to your LinkedIn profile. So good job.
Absolutely. And I hope you're not driving, Courtney. Good.
All right, I think we have time for maybe one more question. Anybody in the chat? I don't
There's
have
a hand up. I think Zia has a hand up.
Yeah. Can you just, Zia, can you just unmute and ask your question?
Sure, no problem. Hi, good evening. I'm asking for a friend. If I've paired with a wonderful mentor and find they don't have the time to be a mentor, how can I tactfully postpone to build the professional relationship in the future?
Ooh, that's a good question.
You want to take that one?
I can start while people get their thoughts together. So what I would say is come at it respectfully, and do it in a way that you say, I can see that things are really busy and I want to make sure that I am being cognizant of your time. Would it be all right if we reapproach or we revisit our mentorship relationship at a certain time? And then actually follow up with that, like set a meeting invite on your calendar so you don't forget to follow up. But I find that most people are grateful. I don't think anyone purposely wants to neglect relationships that they've committed to, but sometimes things just get really hard. So I think by being kind of open to that and saying, hey, I see that things are a little bit busy, not accusatory or anything like that, but just say, I sure would like to follow up with you in a month or so to see how things are, or maybe longer, in a quarter. And then do that and maintain the relationship, and you'll know when the time is right, you know, or they'll tell you when the time is right. I think they might actually appreciate it.
Yeah, I love that. I think being honest is definitely the best way. I'll go back to just also setting clear expectations up front. Obviously, this is already after the fact, right? So I think Monique gave you the great advice there. But as you enter these relationships, like I mentioned, I have an actual process. I have a contract. Right, and in those we list out, we're going to have, you know, meet monthly for 6 months, and then that way there's a finite, right? And then we can agree to extend or not, and then even no fault terminations, right? You get busy, I get busy. We'll both understand, and if we can agree to that level of relationship, let's do this, right? And then that way it's open, it's stated from the beginning, and I think the no fault clause, right? Usually people don't really follow up, but the termination or the end date, right? We're going to meet for this. It really kind of lets you kind of smooth out in case it's not working out too.
Absolutely. It's kind of like any relationship. You know how your friends might say, you don't want your friends to get mad at you because you get busy. You know what I mean? I think any relationships like that, you just have to be understanding about circumstances. And, you know, and then also note that some relationships don't work out. I think people are like chemicals, some mix, some don't. And if you don't feel that that's a mentorship relationship that's rewarding, then you don't have to do it in a rough way. You can just kind of, you know, keep a relationship, but maybe move on and find another mentorship that works better for you. Was somebody going to say something?
I was just going to thank our moderator and our panelists. It was 7 o'clock. Thank you for this great hour of content. I have learned a lot. I hope our attendees have gotten a lot. So thank you, Monique, Sergio, Payton, and Juliana. It has been great. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen because next up we get to announce our boss lady for July. Here, come on, share. Our boss lady for July is Elsie Paul. So congratulations, Elsie. Welcome to the Boss Ladies Club. For those of you who are new and are not familiar with what the Boss Ladies are, it is kind of a way for us to recognize members within the organization who have given back to the organization. They either volunteer with us, they're speakers for us, whatever it is. So tonight we want to recognize Elsie. So congratulations. And I did believe I saw her on the attendance list tonight. So next up, we have the benefits of membership. Taryn Wise is our membership director, but I believe, as many of us I'm sure know in our day jobs, it is vacation season. And I believe that she is enjoying so much time off this week. So our benefits of membership are, we just have an awesome network of women. I don't know if you've been involved with this organization for a long time, you'll learn that the people are why a lot of us stay. I mean, the women are just great. And our allies are gaining as well. We are getting more and more men or male identified individuals joining our organization to participate as allies. We have a few here tonight, so I want to thank them as well. We have a relatively low annual membership fee. It's only $60 a year. You get a members only Slack channel where we can connect between events. We have job boards and we have ways to connect in the community and things like that. So it's a great opportunity, you know, just to continue relationships. We also have volunteer opportunities, which so if you are looking to give back into your community in that way, you are welcome to join us. For our virtual events, it is free to attend for members, and for our in-person events, you get discounted attendance rates. And we're starting to schedule in-person events again. We're getting there with our schedule. So if you have any other questions about membership, please reach out to Taryn, or you can reach out to me directly as well. My email address is president@awtaustin.org. We do have some volunteer opportunities. We are looking for anybody always trying to find speaker, lead assistance, advice, things like that. Social media volunteer, helping us build our social media presence and connecting our social media with our members as well. InnoTech is happening again this year in person. So we are looking for sponsorship leads for that. We are in the process of organizing the 2021-22 board. Heather is also enjoying some time off this week, and she is our president-elect. So if you're interested in joining the board, please reach out to Heather at awtaustin.org. Next up, we have who's looking, who's hiring. So if you're familiar with this, you can also put things in the chat. Who's hiring? So unmute and say what opportunities you have within your organization. And if anybody is looking, you're welcome to put in the chat or unmute and say what positions you are looking for. So with that, please unmute and start connecting. Trying to bring back up the chat.
Hi, I'm a new software engineer graduate. I am looking for entry-level software engineering positions in Austin. My name is Megan, by the way.
Thank you. Make sure you put that in the chat because these things go out in our recap emails. So we want to make sure we get all that captured.
Yeah, Megan, just put your email in there.
Mine? Okay.
No, it's just Megan.
Okay.
And then,
who else?
So my name is Sharon. I work in my day job. I work for the city of Austin. I actually work for the Austin Water Department. I wanted to give a plug for Austin City Jobs, and it is a website that's constantly getting updated. We, as a growing city, we also have a growing workforce. We have job openings at all levels: IT, non-IT, director, assistant director, manager. We have a lot of job openings right now citywide, and just go to austincityjobs.org and I will post that in the chat.
And city jobs, you have to apply in a very particular way or it doesn't really work. We have coaches that can help you with that. So if you are interested in a position and you're intimidated by that process, reach out and we will connect you with a coach.
Yeah, there's definitely some tips and tricks. It's not necessarily it is kind of a weird system, but once you kind of know what the particulars are and that yes, you have it on your resume, but you need to have it on your application as well. Those are the kinds of things that the coaches can help you with. So thanks for mentioning that, Emmy.
Yep, no problem. Those can be scary. I know they've intimidated me in the past. Who else do we have?
So I'll give a shout out for Procre. So we're hiring pretty much in every vertical. So product, software engineering. So Megan, maybe take a look at Procre, and also in customer success, operations, and account management. So yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to help folks navigate that. And I'll also put the link in the chat.
Great, thanks.
Hey, Courtney, do you want to talk up your happy hour that you're having next week for GIS folks?
That would be great. Thank you. Yes, so next week is the TNRIS quarterly meeting, and TNRIS is the body that oversees all the GIS data for the state of Texas, GIS meaning Geographic Information Systems. And we are having a mappy hour after their quarterly meeting, and I will put the link to our Eureka, Texas event RSVP so that y'all can RSVP and get the Zoom information. It's from 5 to 7, and we're going to be doing a lean coffee where the people who attend actually are going to I guess, create the conversations by pushing up the best topics that they agree with that we should be discussing. So I look forward to having y'all there. And I really hope that more of our supporting women in geography and GIS can get more involved with our other women's groups, such as Austin Women in Tech and Women Who Code and Pie Ladies and all kinds of great groups that we have here in Austin. We should all connect more often.
Agreed.
Great. Thank you.
Who else? Do we have
Thank
anybody
y'all.
else looking or anybody else hiring? Not all of our recruiters can be on vacation. I know we got to have some on the call tonight.
Okay, I'll jump in. Hi, everyone. I'm Shay. I'm the programs director for AWT, but I also work at an IT staffing company called Apex Systems during the day. Myself and Taryn Wise both work at Apex and would be happy to help you find any tech positions that you are looking for at any of our clients. But I also wanted to mention that Heather Trumpfeller works at Tech Systems, Lacey at Neos, and Cheryl Miller at Luna Data Solutions. We all have different positions, and all of us are great resources to reach out if you are on the market. I'll put those names through the chat as well right now.
And also a great reason to be a member so that you can use the jobs board in Slack, because all those ladies are in our Slack channel. So.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Shea. I guess I'll have to follow you. I work for the HT group. We have a lot of opportunities as well. Megan, I was actually about to reach out to you to connect with you, but yeah, anything IT we can help out with.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll keep putting things into the chat, and again, they'll get caught in our captured, and then they'll get sent out in our recap email. Next, I'm going to click on the right thing. Our upcoming events. We are scheduling a in-person network mixer for the month of August. It'll be the first in-person event we've had in 18 months. We are in the process of planning that. Bear with us, we're a little out of practice on how to schedule in-person events. So we are in negotiations with a venue and things like that. So be on the lookout for information on that very soon. We already have our September event already planned. It is going to be 9 proven strategies for entrepreneurs, and that will be a virtual event September the 28th. And again, we have InnoTech coming back live in person on October 13th, and that will be at the Austin Convention Center. For those of you who are not familiar with InnoTech, because of course it got COVIDed away in 2020, it is a day-long conference that is all for IT, and it has different IT tracks, and AWT helps them build the women's track. It is a great conference, and it'll be up on our website to get more information probably in the next week or so as we get that out. But it's a great event to attend, and it's also a low-cost conference, but a lot of great content. All right. Do we have anything else before we want to close the event for this evening?
Yeah, and I was just going to say, if anybody wants to talk to me for sponsorship of InnoTech, please contact Joy at joywiggins.com. And then also, I put that in the chat. And then also, if you just, your company wants to become a sponsor, that would be a great way for them to be more involved and supportive of the things that you're doing networking wise. So yeah, just talk to me about any sponsorship opportunities.
And we are building out, I think we're in pretty good shape for 2021, but we are starting to look forward to 2022. So certainly keep that in mind. It does not have to be anytime soon, so it can definitely be something on the horizon.
Yeah.
All right. I see some great faces here I have not seen in a while. And I'm super excited that everybody got to attend tonight. And if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat. I'll leave the meeting open for a little bit so that I can capture any last minute things coming into the chat. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a great evening. Thank you very much for attending.
Thanks, everyone.